Thanks for clicking on Wayne.com for the Week 9 edition of Inside the Zone. Final regular season game this coming Friday. Who'd have thunk we'd be here with minimal hiccups this year?
Not me.
I really didn't. I mean, we talked about this on camera, off camera. I thought week 4 or 5, once everybody got exposed to 3, 4, 5 teams counting scrimmages, we were going to have some major cancellations. Some programs have seen a little bit, but by and large, it's gone pretty smoothly here in the state of Indiana, especially in the Northeast area.
Yeah, so far so good, but I think we're really going to see the impact once we start the playoffs, because during the regular season, a team needs to sit out for a couple weeks. Okay, that's fine. You just jump back in. Now, how are they going to work it where a team has to sit out for a couple weeks in the playoffs? They're basically going to have to forfeit. So I think we're going to see some teams, hopefully nobody in the area, actually their season end with forfeits in the postseason.
That was my question, because you're talking about at this point, Adams Central, I think they're not exactly sure what they're dealing with going forward. Heritage got the big news last week. How do you proceed if you're those teams, and if you're playing them in the draw's already been done as of Thursday night? If you have them in the first round, you're thinking, do we have a bye? What's happening? How do we make this work?
Well, luckily for both of those programs, this happened week 8, not week 9, but I mean, if it happens this week somewhere and you play in 1A through 4A where you don't have a bye to start the playoffs, then how does it impact that? Because you can't really stack up, in the playoffs, games that need to be played. You need to keep it going. So I think while we got through the regular season with minimal impact, I think at least around the state, we're going to see some teams that drop out of the playoffs because of the virus, and hopefully it doesn't impact anybody around here. But, Adams Central and Heritage still facing that kind of, murky future here. Probably not going to play this week. Hopefully they're back for week 10.
Yeah, and the question is, we've seen it actually happen in volleyball where teams have had to, before the postseason has started, they're out. I think it was Lafayette Central Catholic was the first one that I saw as that sectional starts this week in terms of volleyball across the state. But let's talk about, we normally start off talking about the SAC. I want to kind of flip the script and talk about the NECC.
All right, let's do it.
Our highlight zone game of the week, Eastside at Angola. Angola, barring that, if they had gotten a win against Fairfield, which was a close football game, they would have been the NECC Big Division champs. Eastside, far and away, the small division champs for the second year in a row. This is a really good contest, especially if you're Eastside and you're getting ready for the 2A postseason to face a good 4A team like Angola on Friday.
It helped Eastside when they went to Concord, got that loss against the first 5A team they've ever faced as a Class 2A school. Now they go cross division and play Angola, and it's a good tune-up for both teams. You look at Eastside, who they feel can make a run in Class 2A. They have a tough one on the road at Bluffton to start this postseason. So this is going to be a good barometer-type game for Eastside. And then conversely with Angola, playing some pretty good football since that loss to Fairfield. Tucker Haslam and another 5 touchdowns last Friday. So this is an Angola squad that in 4A in that sectional, they feel they're in a position to make some noise.
How big of a game is this for Eastside? Because, again, it's one of the bigger schools that they'll play this season. Not only that, tuning up for the postseason, and also just to get a little pushback. You know what I mean? Last week, Central Noble went in undefeated in NECC small division play. It was 42-7. Eastside was in control of that game all through. And we talked about how big just even playing a team like Concord was a couple of weeks ago. But this is Todd Mason's best squad, you'd say, in quite some time. So how do they use this game to propel them forward and get them ready for what should be a long postseason run if things go as planned for the Blazers?
Well, it's a test for them, first of all, but I think it's the ability to beat a quality team and gain some momentum going into the postseason. So I think Todd Mason, his team learned at Concord about what they needed to work on over the final few weeks of the regular season. Now I think Eastside really wants to be peaking with a win in Week 9 against a quality opponent. And I think that's what Eastside is facing on Friday. They can use that then to vault themselves into the postseason and be a real sectional title contender and try to make it 2 in 2 years. And conversely, I think Angola wants to show that, hey, we learned some stuff about ourselves in that loss to Fairfield, and we'll see if they can bounce back with a win over a team like Eastside.
Speaking of peaking, let's talk about the Northeast State, because the Leo Lions defense seems like it's peaking.
Yeah,
for
it's
sure.
playing some good football.
Offense has been very steady throughout the season, but man, they really handed it to Columbia City in terms of the numbers. And you look at them holding Greg Bolt and that good Columbia City offense to just 7 points, and it came on a QB keeper, if I recall.
Yep.
Didn't allow a ton of big plays. Looked just really solid in our game of the week last Friday night. They've got DeKalb at home this coming Friday, where they will, if things play out, likely clinch their first outright Northeast State title. So what is it that Leo's doing well? And like Eastside, how do they get ready for what they hope is a long postseason run? Because that sectional, as always, is fairly stacked.
Yeah. Coach Jared Souter is perfectly content with his team being as boring as possible. They will go out there, they will run in their T formation where they run some wishbone option stuff, and they'll gain 4 or 5 yards a play. And occasionally Jackson Barber will throw it to Ryland Crawford, and then they lean on that defense to stop teams. So it's a very by-the-book, regimented type attack for Leo, but it's effective because of the personnel they have and just how well they're coached. So when you go out there as somebody that's looking for a story or getting highlights, you're kind of like, there's nothing flashy here. And even on Friday, I sat down to write something out of that game. I can't really tell you what happened. It was just kind of there, and Leo beat them. And so that's exactly what Jared Souter is fine with. We're just going to grind out wins, control time of possession, frustrate you as our defense, and it's worked in the Northeast State, but they're going to have some bigger challenges to come in 4A.
That's my next question is, this team seems like, for Leo, it is better built than some good Leo teams that we've seen in the past to sustain a long postseason run, because defense travels when the weather gets nasty, running game travels in the postseason, and that's what they've got. They've also, they really have a pretty good special teams all around, when it comes to punting, kicking, all the special teams. So this looks like a team, and a lot of these guys are juniors too.
Right.
But they do have experience because they played as sophomores last year, went 10-2, those 2 losses to East Noble, including one in the sectional championship game.
Right.
This feels like a team that is more poised than we've seen in years past, regardless of records, to maybe make a longer run in the postseason.
Yeah, I think, the combination of a good rushing attack and that defense, as you mentioned, is a good situation for Leo. The problem is twofold. A, the 4A North is very difficult. Always difficult, even with DeWanger up in 5A. Sectional 19 and Sectional 20 are stacked, and they play each other in the regional. So, A, that's difficult. B, while Jackson Barber has made some throws, and some impressive throws when he has thrown, we have not seen Leo have to go to an offense in which they are passing 15, 20, 25 times a game. And I can tell you, if Leo is going to make a deep run, they're going to have to do that at some point. Somebody's going to be able to come out and really corral Caden Miller and Ethan Crawford and that running game. Somebody's going to do it, and then Jackson Barber's going to have to step up. We've seen flashes, like I said, of him being able to do it, but when the onus is completely on him, can that passing attack come through? That's the question I still have with Leo. They haven't needed that in the NE8 play because they played so well, but it's going to have to be some time in the postseason when they're going to need it.
Also in the Northeast State this week, Columbia City at Norwell. That's kind of the de facto second place game in this conference. How do you see this one playing out? Because we've seen last year and then early this season that Norwell was a defense first team, but Eli Riley, Max Ringer, it seems like as the season has progressed, that offense has become more of a problem for opponents, which makes them, a dual threat type of team.
I think the big pressure, is on Columbia City in this one because of the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Their final 3 weeks of the season was East Noble, Leo, and Norwell, and we all circled it on the schedule, and they failed both tests thus far. They were close for 3 quarters against East Noble, which was admirable, but faded. And then, Leo really handled them for 4 quarters last Friday. So now they face a really good Norwell team that I think continues to fly under the radar a little bit when we talk about the better teams in the area. And so for Columbia City, they got to get right? And they're in a 4A sectional. It's very difficult, So they need to get right quickly, get some momentum. Greg Bolt needs to get back into Greg Bolt style of play in which he's able to make plays with his arms and his legs. So I think it's a big pressure game for Columbia City to try to get right. And for Norwell, they want some momentum going into a sectional where you look at it and you're saying it's going to be the Knights and Concordia, you think, if everything stays chalk for that sectional championship.
You mentioned momentum heading into the postseason. South Adams with a huge win against Woodland last week. they're off this week. They would have played Southern Wells, but as we know,
Yeah.
Southern Wells, no varsity season. So if you're South Adams and a team that thinks it can make a run at Lucas Oil Stadium, how do you use this week to your benefit? I mean, Warren Central's out there. They could schedule Warren
Good
Central.
6A still
It's
lurking.
probably not a good idea if you want to be healthy as a 1A team going forward. But when you look at using this week to get better, they're kind of in an opposite situation that Eastside and Norwell and Columbia City and Leo are, in that they can't get out there on the field on Friday night
Right.
to continue that momentum and get ready for the postseason. How does that transposed to what the other teams are doing?
Yeah.
How does that kind of play itself out in your mind?
I think it's been a back and forth type thing with Greg Mosier because, yeah, they want to play week 9, but do they play a team that they'll just destroy and it doesn't help them any, and they could have a key injury or two in that game? Or do they step out and try to find a quality opponent, not to the level of Warren Central, but somebody that would give them a challenge? Or do you just use it as an off week, and they have a couple guys that have been banged up and out the last couple weeks, some linemen that hopefully they'll get back for the playoffs. So it's been kind of trying to find that perfect situation for an opponent for Friday, and I don't think Coach Mosier ever found it. He's got a couple more days, I guess, if something comes along, but as of right now, it looks like South Adams is going to have an idle on Friday, so they're going to use it to rest up, get ready. When you look at that sectional, you try to find a team that can match up with them, and it's very difficult. Maybe a Monroe Central can challenge them for a half, but they should, if they play to their potential, get into that regional matchup relatively successful. And then is it an Adams Central rematch, or is it a Southwood that's looking very, very good?
Yeah, Southwood is looking pretty good. Let's talk a little bit about the SAC now. Dwenger had a pretty impressive season thus far. Snyder had been off to a rough start, but we saw that they had improved. They really showed how much they improved last week. Their defensive line was wreaking havoc on the Saints. Dwenger, thanks to a fumble, they pulled it out in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Tip of the cap to them. But what do you take away from that game if you're Snyder? Because I know you're matched up with Homestead in the first round of the postseason, and now all of a sudden, that game, you think, okay, the transitive properties start rolling in your mind. I mean, they gave Dwenger a game.
Yeah.
Homestead beat Dwenger in triple overtime. We could see a pretty darn good game against Homestead and Snyder in the first round of the playoffs when you talk 6A now.
Yeah, and that was a game that was, 33-3 the first time around, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. So Snyder continues to get better each and every week. And, leading at halftime against Bishop Dwenger last Friday was the latest kind of moment with Snyder. When we've seen that each and every week the last 3-4 weeks, we're like, they're getting better and better and better and better. And so Snyder's dangerous, I think. And I think this week, maybe a game flying under the radar is Bishop Luers and Snyder because of how those two teams are playing.
Yeah.
Snyder is playing very good football. Bishop Luers is playing good football, particularly offensively. So when you look at two teams that may sneak up on a team in the postseason, you look at Snyder against Homestead in 6A, and I think you look at Bishop Luers that could potentially challenge a Fairfield or an Eastside or even a Bluffton in that sectional. So good matchup out at Spoler on Friday between two teams that I think we need to keep an eye on heading into next week and beyond.
And we got Homestead at Southside last week. Homestead won against Wayne fairly handily. Chad Zolman became the winningest coach in the program's history. This has been a bit of a surprise because of how much they lost last season, but maybe we shouldn't be surprised because Homestead is really perhaps advanced to the point where it's just kind of plug and play with those guys out at Dave Walters Stadium.
What is it, 27 touchdowns in 5 games for Evan Ormsby? It's something absolutely crazy. Braden Hardwick has been good. Kistler, Anderson at the wide receiver spot. If you would have told me in week 9 that Evan Ormsby, if you would have told me in week 2 that right now we're sitting here and saying Evan Ormsby is a candidate for player of the year, I would have said you were crazy. But I think you have to throw him in that conversation right now, the way he has played. And I think the postseason will play that out a little bit more. But the way that he has come on and played over the last 5 weeks is absolutely incredible. I think he continues it into week 9. And now you look at Homestead as a legitimate threat in 6A in that sectional. Of course, you have Westfield lurking in the regional. So everybody's saying, well, we got rid of Carmel, right? They're in the South now. Well, Westfield's a top 3 team in 6A. So basically you just traded Carmel for Westfield at least this year. So still going to be difficult for one of our teams to get out of the regional in 6A. But the way Homestead's playing, particularly offensively, who knows?
What are you most looking forward to about this Friday night? Because, it is the end of the regular season. We're here. we're getting ready for the postseason, but it is week 9. What are you looking forward to?
I think we're going to see which teams are peaking, which teams are playing really good football. We think Snyder's playing really good. We think Lures is playing good. Other than the as expected teams, the good teams obviously are playing very well, most of them, but also some teams lurking there as well. So I just want to see who's peaking, who plays well, who avoids a key injury or two. You know, we saw Concordia rest some guys last week that were a little banged up for them. So which team, you know, hits the ground running on Friday and is prepped in a week or two if they're 5A or 6A to get the postseason rolling.
All right. Well, we will have it covered here next Monday on Inside the Zone as we wrap up the regular
Yes, we
season
do.
and look forward in entirety to the postseason here in 2020. What a year! And we're almost done with the regular season.
Let's keep it going.
I think it's impressive. We'll
Yeah.
try to keep it going.
Let's do it.
Next Monday on Inside the Zone. For Justin, I'm Glenn. We'll see you next week.